the place of his sanctuary was thrown down. So there is going to be a sanctuary rebuilt. Why does the temple need to be rebuilt? So these prophecies can be fulfilled. And there is going to be, it is going to be rebuilt.
So it can be torn down.
So it can be torn
Yes.
down.
Right.
It's going to be torn down. Then it's going to be rebuilt for a purpose in the millennium. It talks about a millennial temple.
Yeah.
So there's going to be, this one that's going to be torn down is going to be rebuilt again.
Hallelujah.
Yes?
He taketh away the first that he might establish the second.
Yes.
I know we're straightened for time. It's a super quick point. There's an argument in the land and in everywhere you hear it, is that when Paul says the man of sin goes into the temple and exalts himself, they think that's the church, because of a unique use of the Greek word naos. You guys, some of y'all know what I'm talking about. And that's often kind of exploited to argue against a literal temple. And my question is, why Jesus says to get out of Judea. See what I mean? And the word naos is actually the Greek word that would properly be used, not for the larger temple edifice, but for the inner sanctuary, which is exactly what Jesus said. It's the holy place, not the temple in general. So Paul is speaking, he's calling the temple of God, but he's using the Greek word that would be most suitable to the inner precincts of that temple, which is what the brother's saying. You don't have to have a completed temple to have a sacrifice and even to have a holy place for this person to go and exalt himself to be God. But this is local, it's Jerusalem. You have to evaporate and spiritualize all that to get away from a literal temple. And you have to, if you're going to have a sacrifice, see, some people like to say, well, the Antichrist is going to stop them from praying or something like that. But no, you still got to get back. It's got to be in Judea. It's got to be the sanctuary over and over, the holy place. And Paul says, this is the guy that's on the scene. He's just stopped a sacrifice. So I said, show me where the sacrifice is stopped. You've got to have a temple that's in Judea, not just anywhere. That's in Jerusalem, obviously. It's got to be in the holy place. It's not surprising that Paul would use the word that's more limited, that has to do with the innermost part of the temple. Okay?
So I get excited about a rebuilt temple, not because I want to see a beautiful building, but wow, it shows that we're coming near to the time this prophecy will be fulfilled.
That's why we pray for the peace of
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, just the word, the regular sacrifice, everybody understands what we're talking about there. There is other sacrifices other than the regular daily sacrifice, but this is the regular sacrifice. The daily sacrifice is going to be stopped.
By the one who magnifies himself, verse 11, which is a real key.
Yes, the one that's magnifying, this boastful one, that was also the boastful one of chapter 7.
Because the popular teaching is that Jesus, when he died on the cross, made the sacrifices useless. And so they say that stopped the sacrifice. But in every scripture, except the one that's, it's the bad guy. It's the one that exalts himself.
Yes.
So it's important to observe that. For the
Okay.
sake.
His sanctuary was thrown down. Verse 12, and on account of transgression, the host will be given over to the horn along with the regular sacrifice, and it will fling truth to the ground and perform its will and prosper. The sovereign God is going to allow this to happen. Fling truth to the ground. It's like God is going to allow his truth, his name to, again, in the eyes of the world, be disgrace. It's just like the time will come. It says, I will vindicate the holiness of my great name. Here, God is going to again suffer the reproach of this happening because it affects his name. Flinging truth to the ground, and it will perform its will and prosper. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to the particular one who was speaking, how long will the vision about the regular sacrifice apply? While the transgression causes horror, so as to allow both the holy place and the host to be trampled. And so, angels here are discussing something. Two angels are discussing this vision. I think that's amazing how, it talks about in Peter, in Peter that, or is it Hebrews that, it's Peter, that angels are interested in these things. Where's the verse?
In Ephesians, it says that the church is revealing to the angels God's will in this time.
Yes. Yeah, angels.
Angels long to look.
They long to look into they're interested in what is happening, and they're asking one another questions. What is going on here?
What does it say? It says holy. I mean, it says
Okay.
It seems like it's either angels that would be telling us the problem.
There's a place where it does talk about angels desire to look into.
Yes, angels desire to
And
look.
they answer one another, some know more than others. Didn't the angel answer the other one?
Okay, so it doesn't specifically say angels, but a holy one. So I want to ask Reggie this when he gets back. Reggie, help me.
And in chapter 4, Daniel talks about watchers as a particular class of angels that's different from the regular Malachim angels and the holy ones. He talks about watchers and holy ones.
Hurry, Reggie, we got a question for you. Yes, we're trying to define who these holy ones are. Verse 13, then I heard a holy one speaking to another holy one, said to that particular holy one who was speaking, how long will the vision about the regular sacrifice apply, while the transgression causes horror, so as to allow both the holy place and the host to be trampled? I've heard it said that this could be referring to angels discussing this matter. They inquire about, they long to look into these things.
1 Peter
that
1,
there's a discussion going on. How long is this terrible thing going to take place? But it doesn't say angels, it says holy ones.
Yeah.
What are your
You had a
thoughts?
holy one who was not an angel speaking to John, and John fell down. He says, do not do that, because I'm one of your brethren, the prophets, the servants, the prophets. He reveals his secret to his servants, the prophets. He says, I'm one of those guys. In other words, that could have been Daniel, for all I know, talking directly to John, and says, I'm a creature. I'm one of your brothers. Don't do that.
So saints would be actually.
It could be saints that are already in glory. Could possibly. Otherwise, it could just be an angel. Either way, I don't know.
It means sanctified.
Pardon?
The word actually means sanctified ones.
Well, then that would since the elect angels don't need to be sanctified, this would be brothers who are glorified and with the Lord, who are peering in and look. They don't have all of this. It's only Gabriel, because remember later he says no one's in on this with me except Michael. That means there's other angels who don't know, but Michael knew.
And what John saw, he thought was Jesus, but it was a holy one.
Yeah, exactly.
And he would say, no, I'm just one of you.
He thought it was deity.
That's right.
They're holy, they're celestial intel officers.
But how long, one said to the other, how long will the vision about the regular sacrifice apply, while the transgression causes horror, so as to allow both the holy place and the host to be trampled? So how long is this going to take place, this horrible thing that is being described? And he said to me, for 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the holy place will be properly restored. Wow. So this temple that has been thrown down is again going to be restored. but it's going to be for 2,300 evenings and mornings.
This could be a considerably important prophecy to our particular interest in the kind of forewarnings and the things that we will see visible. And so I'm a little jealous over the interpretation here. Some commentators try to take the 2,300 days and make it half of that, 1,150 days. The reason they do that, they try to make the morning sacrifice and the evening combine and whatever to half the days. But even those, that would be less than 3.5 years. And the best understanding, again, understanding this has not happened back in antiquity. And by the way, here's another good passage. Antiochus Epiphanes, nothing that he did lasted this long. So this is a good verse for those that weren't really going to get into the details of this to show this has never had a historical fulfillment.
Which one?
This verse here about the 2,300 days. The abomination from the time that the Antiochus Epiphanes put a sacrifice to Zeus at the holy place, from that time there was exactly 3 years. It wasn't 3.5 years, it was exactly 3 years. Same thing with the destruction of Jerusalem. Amazing. From Kislev 25 to Kislev 25 of 3 exact years. It's too short. So all this is to say, what am I after here? This takes us all the way to the end. I don't want to overly define it. There's a mysterious statement, the cleansing of the sanctuary. Do not think that that's necessarily the second coming of Christ or anything else. It's just a point. The terminal point of the 2,300 days takes you all the way to the end of the tribulation. And remember, but it's not the whole 2,300 days, but only the last 3.5 years. The last, times and dividing of time, and 1,290 or 60 or whatever. That last concentrated period of time, that is the time that Jerusalem is trodden underfoot for 42 months. That is the time that the two witnesses are witnessing and so forth, and that the woman is fleeing the wilderness. You with me? Now, but we have a problem then, because the last 3.5 years is the trampling down, the trotting under, that begins when the sacrifice is taken away or stopped by the one that magnifies himself, okay? So what we have is a surplus of how many days? I don't know how to do the math, but
Who's got the calculator?
yeah, if you took like the 1,260 days and plugged it up here, let's conceptualize just for a moment a 7-year period, equally divided in half, okay? Over here's 1,260, over here's 1,260. I think that's 2,520. Now, there's a mysterious extension of days and all that. That's why we can't be overly precise. But this is taking us to the very end. Now, come from the end. Come from somewhere out there around 1,260, 1,290, somewhere in there, and understand that the sanctuary will be cleansed at that time or rededicated, whatever that means. The issue now is not so much what that means, is come back from that. You'll come back past the time when the sacrifice was stopped, and you'll be closer toward when the covenant was confirmed or when the peace league was made. Now, if you subtract, say, half of that from the 1,230, I wished I had, you can see this if somebody would draw it. But what this is really saying that, now there's a mysterious variable out here at the very, very end, but not much. You just have a little bit of room where it's not real clear exactly where this ends. But it is very clear that this sacrifice starts before it's stopped. That's obvious, right? You got to start it before you stop it. What I'm saying is the 2,300 days means this is the full time from the start, right on past the place of it stopped, down through the tribulation of the 42 months. It's comprehensive from the start to the very end. And between the start and the very end is a closer period of time of just 3.5 years. That's the only time that during the first half of the week, the Jews are rejoicing in the false security.
What you're trying to say is that
Help me. Somebody could do
that the temple won't be restored until sometime after Christ has ever come back. Basically, it's...
Yeah, the end of the 2,300 days is when the sanctuary is restored, right?
Well, you say restored, it says cleansed, because remember that when the Judas Maccabee, and the others, when they prevailed against the Syrian army, there was a series of time, that's what Hanukkah is all about, of the rededicating of the temple. It's been defiled by Gentiles, and so there's a ritual of rededication.